I'm so happy to be sitting next to Jono, the CEO of Panaseer, talking about CEO craft. You and I have had some amazing conversations about CEO craft and your leadership development, and there's so many areas I'd love to explore with you on camera today. But what I'd love to do is start with the idea of mentorship. You've had a coach for 10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years now.
And it's, in your own words, it's transformed the way that you think about your own leadership and your CEO craft and how you've gone on that journey. I'd love to know, what has working with a coach helped you understand about yourself and your role that would have been impossible to get to alone?
Yeah, great question. So Susan has been my coach for over a decade. I would say she's changed my life and my perspective of self, really. Learning about self, I think, is the foundational skill. And it's easy for people to see the best in others and the worst in themselves, especially in a world where people are growing up with social media, where it's not even the real them.
Yeah.
And Susan helped me understand what makes me, what my drivers are, what makes me tick. Some great work around motives and the drivers inside your unconscious mind that you're not aware of that are evidenced in your everyday behavior. And if you can understand what's, the wizard behind the curtain, that's really driving the behavior, it's a foundation to understanding others as well. So I think I have a much more balanced version of myself and a peace with being good with who I am. Every towering strength comes with a shadow, and recognizing and making the most of the strengths and recognizing there's a shadow there that you need to manage. And then being also dissatisfied with who I am, because there's always an opportunity for growth. And I'm 53, and this year will be my best ever growth year, both professionally and personally.
Awesome.
But I'm good with who I am, and I've got this craving for growth and continuous improvement. And there's a harmony between the two, which I love. And Susan to give me that gift, I would say.
Oh, that is just fantastic. What, concretely, how does that play out in the leadership blueprint that you've got? Do you have sort of non-negotiables or a mantra, or tell me about how you explain that to other people in a way which is relatable?
Yeah. I think my job is to be the best version of myself and help others be the best versions of themselves. And when people are our best, if you've got the right people in the company, and those standards and values, of course, but when you've got the right people in, if someone's having a bad day, it's not usually them.
Yeah.
It's the situation,
the
context that explains their behavior. And if you go looking for that, it's easy to blame and judge and criticize, and it's a complete waste of time. It doesn't change anything. But if somebody's not having a great day, or they're in distress, or not being their best, it's just trying to find out why, and meet people where they are, and always see the best in people and find the best in people and help them become the best versions of themselves by maybe breaking through artificial ceilings and barriers. And if you could be the best version of yourself, and you've got the capacity to absorb when perhaps other people aren't being the best versions of themselves and help them getting out of that situation, then you create, it's not harmony, because there's a lot of conflict in our conversations, a lot of disagreement and challenging.
Yep.
It's not artificial harmony. It's not pretending you don't want to say something or not saying something that you want to say. It's about being your authentic self and being comfortable to say things in an environment where trust won't be eroded, relationships won't be damaged, because you've got that foundation of trust. And if people are behaving in a way that's perhaps not the best versions of themselves, you find a way to come back to that topic later.
How do you use that foundation to create performance? So, there's some, it's a growth story, right? There's some very clear and very ambitious goals that need to be achieved. How do you marry that idea of authenticity and trust with achieving the extraordinary?
There's a danger that this comes across as being a little bit kumbaya.
Yeah.
And let's just play nice.
And it's not.
It's absolutely not. It's focused on results with an absolute sense of urgency exceptionally high standards. And if their standards are not conformity, people behave differently. If they're striving towards something rather than feeling criticized, which creates a defensive response, which is a natural human response. It's not as though this company can criticize people and they'll be fine with it. We react to criticize. We do to criticism. We do become defensive. So if you can just help get people out of their own way and be the best versions of themselves, you can set high standards and you can go at pace. And you can disagree with each other. I'd like to think our company is a meritocracy. We get on a call and there are sometimes decisions I need to make, for sure.
Yes.
And that's my responsibility. There are sometimes calls where I have ideas, but I'm not the expert. So I'll suggest an idea and somebody else has got the authority to say, appreciate the input, but actually we're going to do something else, because they own that. That's their level.
Are you explicit about that when you talk about that?
I say, I'm offering opinion.
Yeah.
I might sometimes use that on the scale of 1 to 5. This is how much of an expert I am. And on the scale of 1 to 5, this is how much I care. Right. Sometimes we can get pulled into things that we don't really care about, but it's intellectually curious and we find ourselves going down that end. So if you care about it, that's one thing. And if you're an expert in it, that's another. Those two things are very powerful if they're both a 5 out of 5. And sometimes I'll say, I'm not a marketing expert. I've got an idea. Please consider the idea and then make your decision. So we have to be really clear on roles and responsibilities. But I want people to be as empowered as they can, as close to our customers and decision-making as they can. And you've got to create an environment with clarity, high levels of accountability, high levels of ownership, and people doing what they say they're going to do, which you can do if people can be their authentic selves and have the confidence to be who they are and relate with each other, and you can build a trusted environment. So it's not about softly.
Yeah,
it's all
exactly.
about humans working together effectively to get the fastest results possible.
So many ideas in that. I really like those vectors of expertise and caring as a way of framing.
I learned that from Nick, the founder of the company. He brought that to the table.
Okay, shared wisdom.
Indeed.
What's the most surprising thing that you now know about being a CEO versus being a senior leader? Like a C-suite leader, because you were one before and now you're the CEO.
Yeah. I think as I observe more and learn more and do more, I find it's actually the same. It's people.
Okay.
We're all people. Whatever level you are at the company, if you can understand yourself and be the best version of yourself and work with other people, hold people accountable in a constructive way, whether I'm working with customers or whether I'm working with our investors or with our leadership team or anybody in our company, I think it's the same. It's not that different to being a father.
Do you think it's about communication then? Is that the craft to learn, or part of the craft?
I think it is. I think if you can meet people where they are and try and understand them, and connect so some people are thinkers and they're very logical and analytical, and some people are very feeling oriented.
Yeah.
And if you say the same thing to those two different people, they will perceive it differently. The thinker might be rewarded by competence and appreciate what a great job they're doing, whereas somebody who speaks from the heart and perceives the world through feelings really wants to be appreciated for who they are. And if you could just understand those people are different, almost like speaking French and speaking German. You start speaking French to the German person, the communications are not going to be effective. Even if they speak that language and it's a second language, it's still harder for them to communicate on that particular channel. So just being aware of people and trying to understand them and meet them where they are, just takes out some of the friction of communication.
Yeah, the listening to understand. You're doing a lot all the time. It's unrelenting in the, just the volume of decisions that you've got to make. John, how being fully present and listening to understand takes effort, right? And you're being pulled in lots of different directions. We know the insights from the data tells us that pressure from physical and emotional well-being and financial well-being and relationship well-being is directly correlated to performance and being able to be present. When does that get most put under pressure for you? When do you When do you think, God, I wasn't my best then? Or and what have you learned as a mitigating factor? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think it's a foundational question, actually. I remember, I don't know who told me this, but when you're on the airplane and you've got kids and there's an emergency and you're losing air,
yes,
you fit your own oxygen mask first.
Yeah.
So actually learning to be a little bit selfish, to understand and meet your own needs, for me, puts me in a better place to then be better for everybody else. So I have a high achievement need. I need to get things done. And I'll wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock. I'll do my exercise. I run, swim, bike ride each week. I try and get that done early in the day. And I've kind of filled that bucket. I've scratched that itch. I've ticked that box. So then for the rest of the day, I'm in a good place for everybody else. But if I don't look after myself, if I don't get enough sleep, if I don't walk and get some fresh air, then it's easy to get maybe more focused on narrower things and lose sight of the big picture. So there's a balance of my first job is to be, a husband. My second job is to be a father. My third job is Panaseer.
Yeah.
But actually, above all of that is looking after myself. And I give the company an awful lot. It's a 7-day-a-week job. I'm thinking about it all the time. But it's lower down the list in priorities than my health and my family.
Yeah.
And I think if I keep it that way, then I can do a better job for the company. If I put the company first, I think that's a short-term strategy that would lead to burnout and family tensions that would get in the way of the job. So I'm not trying to suggest it's harmony every single day, but clear sight of priorities and boundaries allows me to try and do the best I can at each one of those
100%
things.
agree. It's a fully embodied role that, it's not just an ordinary job.
It helps to love it though.
Okay.
I love what I do.
Yeah. Why? What is it?
I choose carefully. One of the best pieces of advice I give to my children when they're young is choose your partner for life wisely. I'm married above myself, met my wife at university, and we have a fantastic foundation to our life. And our kids see that every single day. And therefore, my home life is in a good position. And therefore, it's easier to be my best at work. So making the right decisions, investing in the right areas. A philosophy of mine is that you have to pay the price. So pay the price beforehand and kind of eat well and get enough sleep and do the exercise, or you pay the price later, which is time with doctors and consultants and things which aren't quite as enjoyable as paying the. So you got to pay the price. So paying the price at the right time, making the right investments in time. It's difficult to try and get the balance, but I feel at peace with that most of the time. I think because I have a clear list of priorities. But I love what I do. I chose the company very carefully. I filtered them for values and culture. I asked all the leadership team I met who were interviewing me, I asked them all how they lived their values. I needed to make sure the values were great, as well as the technology and the opportunity and everything else, because you spend a long time working and I want to love the people I work with.
Yeah.
Even through the difficult times, you need to have trust in those people.
So
I spend more time carefully, measure twice, cut once. My grandfather was a carpenter and he taught me that at a young age. So choose the companies carefully, choose who you spend time with carefully. And if you do that, I think a lot of the other things become more straightforward.
I love what you talked about there about role models, like you're role modeling for your kids. You've got role models in, your granddad, the carpentry. Are there any sort of other leader role models that are worth calling out here?
Sure. I've been blessed with the people I've worked for.
Okay.
I've been very curious always. So I've worked for many CEOs and I've learned an awful lot. We moved as a family to Boston for a couple of years, and I ran global sales for a company called Veracode. And Bob Brennan was a CEO.
Yep.
And I bought into Bob.
Because
of his values and his capabilities and his character. And he helped teach me to be a CEO. There's many CEOs who've come out of his stable because he's invested in helping people grow. So I've chosen companies and leaders that I could learn from. And in every opportunity, I've put more learnings.
So what did Bob say then? Does he have, what's the one thing that rings in your ears?
He was good at simplifying things. I remember one conversation about helping make big problems smaller. People can sometimes catastrophize and they take a small thing and actually you can take that small thing and make it even smaller. And just trying to make big problems as small as possible and focusing on what you can do with that because it's easier to broaden things out because then they're hard to do. And then we've got reasons not to do them. Whereas actually tactical execution within a strategic framework and quick wins all the time, and don't let perfect get in the way of good enough, because good enough is sometimes exactly what you need. Perfect is required sometimes, but very rarely. So it's keeping things going and making problems smaller and just tactical execution.
So many nuggets of wisdom in that, Jono. Thanks ever so much for taking the time to talk today. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.